In the S tier, it is a chunky one. Trey McBride, Tucker Kraft, Tyler Warren, and George Kittle. Trey McBride has been absolutely balling with Jacoby Brissett under center. He gets Kyler Murray back this week, but is still our tight end one. Any trepidation about a drop-off with Kyler Murray under center, Tom?
Well, I mean, the red zone stuff has been what's been great for Trey McBride. Actually getting touchdowns has been very useful, but let's not forget that, Trey McBride hasn't been under 20% target share in any game this year. Trey McBride is still going to be a volume hog, even if he does lose the touchdowns. Trey McBride still deserves to be a top tight end regardless. And he's going up against the Dallas Cowboys, whose defense ranks 32nd against the pass. They have been absolutely atrocious in every single game. The games which the Cowboys are in frequently end up going to massive points totals, and this game is a 54-point total. So there is no way I would worry about Trey McBride in this one.
And then one player we're also not worried about, Tucker Kraft, absolutely balling out at the moment. The number one target in Green Bay. Are you expecting another huge performance this week?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, as you say, he is the number one target in Green Bay, and he's just built upon last year just in such a substantial way. The yards after the catch last year was excellent. He had 2.0 more than any of the tight end. He ranked third in touchdowns behind only George Kittle and Mark Andrews. And he's just really developed into an all-round tight end. And I think it was Field Yates who tweeted the other day, Tucker Kraft looks more like George Kittle than George Kittle looks like George Kittle. And that's what we're getting. We're getting that kind of prime, real tight end breakout. And I just can't believe that people talk themselves into certain other tight ends ahead of them this offseason.
Yeah, the best value in drafts all off season, and certainly paying off.
And just on this matchup, the Panthers, their one biggest weakness has been against the tight end position all season. They ranked 22nd in points allowed to the quarterback position, 24th to the running back, 29th to the wide receivers, but 11th to the tight end position. So maximum confidence from this week.
Wheels up for Kraft. In the A tier, we've got two question marks, should we say, at the moment. Brock Bowers had the most incredible year last year, but hasn't been healthy. The Raiders finally let him take some time, get healthy, and he returns this week, but doesn't crack the S tier. Tom, how confident are you in Brock Bowers on his return?
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit of trepidation about just how bad this Raiders offense has been. We had high hopes for them. We had high hopes for Geno Smith, and Geno Smith's just been diabolical, to be fair. And there's a little bit of that mixing in, but the Jags do allow the ninth most fantasy points to the tight end position. Brock Bowers saw target shares of 23%, 16%, 17%, and 28% over 4 games that he played in. Obviously, we would like to see him above 25% in most games, but anything above 15% of the tight end position tends to be really strong, and we know how talented he is, so it's hard to feel too negative about a player who was incredible last year.
And then the other player in the A tier, Jake Ferguson, has seen either 7 targets or a touchdown in every single game this year since week 1. And then last week he posted a nice donut. Are you going to impact that this week, or do you think he just bounces back?
Yeah, National Tight End Day was definitely not for Jake Ferguson. But look, I mean, going up against the Broncos, there are certain areas which are always going to be tough. Like the Broncos defense, yes, they gave up some to the passing game last week, but they've been excellent against tight end position all season. They've allowed their 5th fewest fantasy points to the position. So it didn't look like a great matchup for Jake Ferguson on paper unless he found his way into the end zone. This week, you've got the Cardinals, who allow the 7th most fantasy points to the tight end position. Their pass defense ranks 21st. This is a whole different ball game to last week, and I think you can go back to the well on Jake Ferguson, because what we've seen in these last couple of games with CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and and Jake Ferguson is that, generally speaking, they are the main targets still. And even though last week was disappointing, that offense is going to run through those 3 in the passing game.
Yeah, absolutely. And then before we move into our B tier, if you are finding this for the first time, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. We do these rankings videos every single week, as well as waivers, dynasty buys and sells, and all the content you need to be winning your leagues. In the B tier, we've got Oronde, Gadsden, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Kyle Pitts, Tom Gadsden's been one of the most exciting names to talk about over the last 2 weeks. You're higher than me on him this week. You've got him up as your tight end 7. I'm lowly down at tight end 9. Do you think he's making a claim that he should be in potentially the A tier, and if not, maybe even higher?
Well, the usage for him has just been incredible. I mean, his route participation rate over the last few games, 77%, 79, 94. Target shares 21%, 17%, 21%, which turned into PPR scores of 12, 29, and 19 PPR points. Like, these are genuinely incredible numbers for a tight end to be putting up. He's earned the trust of the team. We know that Greg Roman's schemes can always be very friendly to the tight end position. And sometimes you just have to trust these ones. Like, this matchup isn't a fantastic one. The Titans rank 27th in fantasy points allowed to the position. A lot of that kind of comes into the fact that teams get up against the Titans and then they just choose to run the ball a lot. But their pass defense does rank 29th in EPA allowed, so I want to start players against them, even though you know that it might be heading towards the under, and this game is a 43.5 over under. But yeah, I mean, we've both been talking about him for weeks. You in your buys and sells videos, me in the waiver videos. Like, Oronde Gadsden did everything that we would want to see from a breakout tight end, and I'm very comfortable starting him.
In the C tier, we have got Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, and Colston Loveland. Loveland, a nice increase in snap share, a nice increase in targets, but not quite getting it done in the fantasy production. Do you think that this is a breakout that's being primed, or do you think it's still too early to be putting him in lineups?
Well, I mean, yeah, the route participation of 78% without Cole Kmet was a season high. You go back and look, and the last time that Cole Kmet out targeted Colston Loveland was week 2. It's all trended towards Colston Loveland, but we just haven't had that breakout. And last week, the encouraging thing was targets early. So that tells you that the design plays on the opening scripts, they were going to Colston Loveland. They wanted to get him involved, and then it kind of fell away a bit. I think the Ravens defense played better than many people expected, and that didn't help. But this week, going up against the Bengals have allowed the most fancy points to the tight end position. I think they've allowed 8 tight end touchdowns in the last 4 weeks alone. Everybody gets home against the Bengals. If Colston Loveland can't do it here, then it's time to put it on the shelf and accept that it's not going to happen this year. But there's no way that I'm shying away from this matchup with a 53-point over-under.
It's coming. It's happening. It's going to happen this week. Believe Tom. Before we get into the detail, though, if you are looking for a streamer tight end, get yourself in the comments. Ask us some questions, whether it be start sits or trades or waiver wire questions. Tom and I will answer 100% of those questions in the comments. In the D tier, it's slightly bigger this week. Zach Ertz, Dalton Schultz, Hunter Henry, Evan Ingram, TJ Hawkinson, and Juwan Johnson. Tom, Hunter Henry at the beginning of the season felt like a nice plug and play tight end 1, but it's drifted over the past few weeks. Do you think there's some confidence that he could rebound, or is he just a kind of a question mark and a touchdown or bust type guy?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, the opening 3 weeks of the season saw target shares of 17%, 13%, 27%. Since then, 11%, 13%, 11%, 16%, and then down to 4%. It feels like with the emergence of Kayshon Boutte, with the kind of health getting there for Stephon Diggs, who's seen target shares like 38%, 40%, 29%, 20%, that Hunter Henry is just falling by the wayside a little bit. So I'm definitely slightly concerned about him. It did feel like he was going to be a top option. And the Falcons have allowed the fewest points to the tight end position this year. I don't have the stat off the top of my head, but I have a feeling they've not allowed a single tight end touchdown. And that just makes me a little bit wary about Hunter Henry.
Absolutely. And then round out with our final tier, the E tier, AJ Barner, Noah Fant, Theo Johnson. If you're starting these guys, is it go look for somebody else?
I mean, I don't really think that anybody above them is necessarily available on waivers, or if they are, I'm not sure you have huge amounts of confidence. Maybe Colston Loveland's available, and I would go and stream him instead. Noah Fant is probably fine if Joe Flacco's out there. The Bears have allowed 5th most fantasy points to the tight end position, and that's one which I would be okay with. You look at the Seahawks matchup against the Commanders. The Commanders are allowed 10th most fantasy points to position. I think that Sam Darnold's going to have a nice match there. But again, it's it's not very consistent. And then Theo Johnson has shown us that he's a touchdown or bust player. He doesn't command any level of volume, even with Daniel Bellinger out. It just doesn't really matter for him. And the Niners, they've allowed the fewest fantasy points to the position. So Theo Johnson is just not somebody I see as relevant most weeks. If you want to take the dart throw that he's going to score a touchdown, fine. But I'd rather bet on better matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. I called him in my weekly review article last week, droppable in most formats, and I think that even covers most Dynasty formats as well. But that is it for this week's tight end video. If you are looking for other rankings videos, make sure you check out these other positional rankings videos where we break down the rankings for each and every fantasy relevant position this week.